Hello and welcome to the NovaBACKUP CMon overview video. In this case, we already have the NovaBACKUP CMon product installed, and if you don't already have that installed, we do recommend you watch the video that we have on CMon installation using our recommended method of installation. That knowledge base article and video is linked in the description of the video, but you can get to it from support.novastor.com, then click on NovaBACKUP and then NovaBACKUP CMon videos. And then you'll see an article for NovaBACKUP CMon 19 installation video. That's the one in front of us here. That article has the video that could be played through YouTube. The top of the article has the ability to download CMon if you don't already have that, and then you can follow these instructions for installation. So we're going to go to the desktop shortcut that we already have for NovaBACKUP CMon. In your case, this might be in the Start menu, but it should be titled as such. So we're going to double click on that shortcut and it's going to load the login page for our CMon. We're going to use lowercase admin for the username and lowercase admin for the password. Those are the defaults. It is recommended to change that password once you get logged in the settings area. So we're going to hit login here and you will see the dashboard screen show up. The dashboard screen has an overview of your agents, which are basically backup clients that have been configured for a setting that allows them to connect to the CMon server. And then on the bottom half, you'll see the job history area. These are basically the logs that are communicated from the agents. And each one of those logs could be viewed just by double clicking or hitting the view icon on them. You'll see a general overview of backup jobs status here on the right side of the dashboard screen. And in our case, there's color coding. So for job status color codes, we have jobs that have started are blue. Those are in progress still. Jobs that have completed successfully are green. Jobs that have completed with errors are red. And jobs that have completed with warnings are going to be orange. In our case, we have quite a few jobs that have reported in because we have a total of 26 agents that have connected to the CMon. And you have an overview of which ones are disconnected, which ones are currently connected. The three that we have in our case disconnected are remote laptops that are not always turned on. And each one of the columns that's in the dashboard or in general in the CMon can be sorted just by left clicking in the header area of that column. So for instance, if I left click on connected column here for the agents, it'll reverse sort them, and the three that are disconnected are showing that gray color are the ones that are in that disconnected state. You can also double click on a particular agent. We're going to double click on the Q4J agent, and when we can look at the details of that agent in the agent tab, we can also look at the devices and job history. When we come to the agent description, we can see which group it's in and the name of the computer, the IP address, the operating system details, and the version of NovaBACKUP. If this agent had a license assigned to it, we'd see the license for that software at the bottom. This means that we have a trial since it's blank on that particular backup client. Devices tab here basically is going to look the same as if you were to click on the device tab inside NovaBACKUP or XSP software. And then job history is your listing of every job that's communicated from that client, and it's basically a real-time communication of those logs as soon as they start transmitting. Even if a job had been just kicked off on that backup client Q4J, we would see a blue status at the very top for the latest entry. That means it had started that job. You can certainly double-click or view any of these logs. So I can go to this test backup job and double-click on it and see the full log result, where it shows successful in green there, the amount of files selected and files completed, and that takes care of the jobs area. So now that we're done with the overview of the dashboard area, we're going to move on to the agents and groups, which is up here at the top. That's basically just an expanded view of the agents screen from the dashboard, but it does show them grouped into their particular groups. And in our case, we only have a pending group and a servers group defined. Pending is where all of your agents will go by default to be added to that group. But you can define a group, so we're going to do that now by hitting the Add New Group button. We're going to call this one Workstations, since we already had a server one defined. And we're going to hit Save there. And now if I minimize the pending group, we can see now we have that workstation group added at the bottom. So in order to move an agent to a particular group, there's two ways to go about it. The easiest way is to drag and drop. So for instance, if I come down and find that Q4J one that's in the pending group, I can left click, hold down, and drag and drop over to that new workstations group, release the mouse button, and now it just added the Q4J. It moved it from pending to workstations. You can also double click on an existing agent that's in a particular group to be able to move it, and then go to edit here. And then you have that group pull down menu here, so I can pick, in this case, servers for this one and hit save. And now that other agent just moved into the servers group there, as you can see. That takes care of the agents group screen. We're going to move on to the jobs area. And jobs is just an expanded view of how it was looking on the dashboard for those jobs from every agent that's reporting in, and it's going to show it by default by most recent date at the very top. So this is a good example. We can see there's 4 jobs here that are still in the blue started status. Those are still running, and you can double click or do a view on any of those jobs to see an extended status log entry for that. Takes care of the jobs area. Let's go to notifications. Notifications has your ability to create a trigger to go to an email for particular actions, and these are all custom defined inside the CMon. You don't have to touch the backup client at all to get these email triggers working. Triggers can be by an immediate sending of an email based on logs that come through, or you can do it by a daily summary or weekly summary or monthly summary. The history area here is just your ability to go back in time to look at email notifications based on these triggers to pull open what the contents of that email notification was. So we're going to go to triggers here, and in our case we already have one trigger here defined. We're going to create a new one, hit add trigger. And we have the ability to select or deselect particular agents that are going to get notified. You could do it by group at the top. You could do it by agents. Like for instance, if I want to remove a couple of these agents, I have this X button that I can single left click on to remove those particular agents out of this trigger. And you could also do it by doing a deselect all, select all. And job status is your ability to, for instance, if I don't want to report on any jobs that were successfully completed, I can uncheck and hit the X on successful there. Interval, we have these choices. So immediate is going to be the default, and that's just going to be once the log gets communicated through from the agent, I want to do email notification right away on that based on the agents that are shown here. You may not like that. You may want to have a daily interval set, and we can do that. And daily interval is your condensed one email that gets sent per day based on this trigger for those agents. So it's just a condensed one single email of all the logs from those agents. If you'd like to, you can define it per a particular time. For instance, I want to see these daily reports come through at 8 a.m. And then recipients is just your ability to type in the email addresses or distribution groups separated by a semicolon. So we see that semicolon in between. Subject is got a bunch of variables in here that's already predefined. Usually this will work for everybody, but you can custom define the subject line. You can even add in the variables that are showing in the body here if that works better for you. Enable HTML, send messages HTML. You can uncheck that box and it'll send the email in plain text. For instance, if your email client looks better in plain text, you can do that. And then you can customize obviously the body of that email that gets sent out for the trigger. So I can hit add there, and it's going to add that trigger in to the top. And if I want to edit that later, I can simply double click on it or hit view just to show you we viewed it, and now we can make a change. For instance, I want to set it to different time, 7:30, and hit update here at the bottom to update that trigger. We're going to look now at the notifications history area. This is just your ability to show those triggered notifications that were already completed, and you can double click or do the view on each one of them. So it just shows you who received it, what the subject line and what the body was for that particular notification, and it shows the time that it was sent as well. So that takes care of notifications. Cloud storage accounts we're not going to cover here. Settings is your ability to define the settings for the CMon itself. Security here, we do recommend to have ignore SSL certificate errors enabled in case, for instance, your SSL certificate expires, you still want to be able to get into the CMon. You'd have to have that checkbox enabled. Allow user registration. We don't have it enabled, but it'll create a register button on the login screen that allows users to register for an account on the CMon without you predefining or creating an account for somebody in the users area. Now we're going to move on to the settings agent area. These are just settings that control the backup client agent service and how often it gets communicated to and pinged, for instance, and your ability to limit how many logs are shown per agent. So you can make those changes there if you'd like to. Notification is your ability to choose which SMTP email server gets set to relay the messages from the CMon to the email addresses that you do define for your notification triggers. By default, we use NovaBACKUP Alerts as the type, and that's our own SMTP relay service that we supply you with, so that you don't have to custom define your own server, but you can certainly hit Custom SMTP here, define the address and the port, and put in the username and password and such to use your own SMTP. We are compatible with Gmail, Yahoo, and Office 365 as well. So you have also ability to test the email notification to put in your email address that you want to test with, hit send test email, and that'll send a test email to let you know if your, for instance, custom SMTP server settings are working. Back in settings, we're going to go down to users. There's only one user that's added by default to the CMon, that's admin. You could give everybody access to that admin account, but they'd have full control even to change settings. So if you're going to give user accounts to part of your staff, you may want to create a new user here, and then you have the ability to define particular roles. We have some predefined roles already set up here, but you can make a custom role. For instance, if you want to lock down a user to only see the dashboard and logs, you could use one of these roles like auditor and then edit that role, and we're going to cover that in the next. We're going to cover roles now, and these are the predefined roles that are set up. You can see the definition of those roles just by hitting the view icon here, and so you got a checkbox interface for all the items that are already enabled, and you can view users that are part of this role with this button here at the top. You can also edit this role. If you don't want to create a custom role, you can hit edit and then add or subtract items that are part of that role. You can also create a new role with the button at the top here, add new role, and then give it, the definitions of that role. Once you define a custom role, you would then go into the users area and then edit that particular user, and then use the pull down menu to select the role. Storage servers we're not going to cover here, but you do have to have a storage server defined before you can go into cloud storage accounts area. We have a help menu here, and that's going to show an about menu as well as your documentation. This is an online user manual for NovaBACKUP CMon that you can view, and you can bookmark to be able to view that later. And that covers the NovaBACKUP CMon overview video. Thank you so much for watching.